Move to the release of three verses by Mrs. Jaisri Raju Sriram, an author and educator pioneering the framework of civilizational parenting and narrative development, bridging Indian knowledge systems with modern development psychology. She's also the founder of My Learning Center in Trichy and the author of Sri Ramayana, with her writing reclaiming classical female narratives as blueprints for contemporary self worth and dignity. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Jaisri Raju Sriram to the stage.
Good morning, distinguished guests, mentors, friends, and fellow seekers of narrative truth. Okay, if you had met me over a decade back, you would have found me as a very different person. I was a banker, and I spent over 8 years in corporate banking, world governed by balance sheets, risks, risk analysis, operational efficiency, and rigid metrics. On paper, everything was structured and controlled, but outside those glass offices, I kept witnessing a quiet, pervasive crisis. I saw brilliant, highly educated women around me, and eventually, young students and parents struggling with unseen burdens. It wasn't lack of talent or intellect, it was a crisis of emotional boundaries, self-worth, and internal agency. When I transitioned from banking to founding kind of learning spaces and active play labs, my goal was very simple. I wanted to create an environment where adults, children alike, they could cultivate real resilience rather than mechanical, day-to-day life. I was trying to understand why couldn't we as a society find an anchor. But I found that anchor was sitting right in front of us, buried under centuries of routine. This core realization led to the foundation of three verses: women, winter, and worship. For generations, particularly in Tamil tradition, the month of Margazhi, the height of winter actually, it has been associated with early mornings, sacred verses, cold winds, and quiet devotion. But as I looked closer at the classical verses and the divine feminine archetypes, I saw something that modern commentaries often miss out. We have been taught to view, ancient worship as merely ritual or passive decoration or devotion. But Margazhi is not about passive surrender. It's about a masterclass at internal gathering and boundary architecture. So, to the audience here, let me just tell you what Margazhi is. Margazhi is the month of, it usually calls in the month of December to January. And it's the month where women, especially unmarried women, come together. They sing in praises of God. And I used to think it was by rote. I used to think, it was something that, because we were made to do it. So I thought it was supposed to be done as a rote. But now, when I see myself and see the next generation and see my own children growing up, I understand the amount of importance and relevance it is to our culture and the way, our civilization is. Because it's not of women subjugating themselves or coming together, but it's about self-discipline. It's about women bonding with each other. It's about women talking about their own power. That's what Margazhi is all about. Now, when you read classical texts through lens of modern human intelligence, you don't just see sacred property. You see blueprints of female agency. You see women gathering together in the pre-dawn hours, defining their own sacred space and asserting their choice and building an unshakable core. There are just three pillars of this three verses that I am looking at, which I felt bridged the Indian knowledge system also. One is navigating the winter within. Winter meaning learning to sit with solitude, uncertainty, without losing your dignity or direction. Reclaiming the three archetypes. Three in the sense, moving away from treating classical female figures as silent sufferers and recognizing them as models of quiet strength, vocal consent, and boundary setting. Transforming routine, mechanical habits into conscious, value-driven daily living, that is what three verses is all about. Now, whether you're a young woman stepping into a high-pressure career, a parent trying to raise grounded children in a hyper-digital world, or an educator shaping young minds, These verses remind us that our heritage is not an artifact to be preserved only in glass. I was just going through the whole event today as it was curated, and I found there was this theme that's running through all the books that were released today and the authors who spoke. And the theme was bridging our Indian knowledge system with the present, finding a common ground. Because we believe there's a constant flow, and I wanted to especially commend Ukiyoto publishers for bringing in authors like that into the forefront. Three verses gently argues that perhaps our winters deserve the same patience we so naturally extend to nature. People sometimes ask me, books, do they really change the society? I used to think, I don't think, revolution or, how do I say this? A revolution or opposition starts with just by raising your hands or joining together. Books change society, not overnight, but they change conversations. Conversations change families. Families change communities. And communities eventually, we have seen, shape civilizations. Every lasting transformation begins as an idea that refuses to remain inside one mind. No book is written in isolation, and today's literary fest is, I don't have to say it, is a testament to that. I want to express my deepest gratitude to my family, especially my husband Sriram Shankar, whose quiet strength and constant belief allowed me to step fully into my work. To my children, Sri Harini Shankar and Sri Hari Shankar, they remain my greatest teachers in emotional honesty. To my publishing partners at Ukiyoto Publishing and Dr. Lakshmi Priya of Pachyderm Tales for believing me in the power of bringing these narratives to a global audience. As I close today, I leave you with a very, very simple invitation. Do not read three verses merely as poetry or religious commentary. It is a permission slip. What is it a permission slip of? To honor your own quiet sessions, a permission slip to set firm boundaries. It is a reminder that you're deeply rooted in your civilizational foundation. No outer storm can strip away your agency. And Marguerite teaches us that dawn never arrives all at once. It begins with one lamp, one voice, one woman knocking on another's door, one song carried into the cold morning air. My hope is that three verses becomes that one knock. It's not asking you to return to the past. It's inviting you to awaken what is already inside you. If that happens, this book has already begun its journey. Welcome to Three Verses. Thank you.